Have a nice day, guys. Welcome to my video channel. Subscribe me. Top 10 Fascinating Historical Photographs. History will consistently intrigue present-day ages. It snares the creative mind to find out about the legends and courageous women of past times, terrible wars, misfortunes of incredible boats that sank and surprising huge-scope fiascos. A considerable number of verifiable books have been expounded on notorious occasions that changed the course of history, and obviously, even in those days, photos have been taken to archive certain minutes or individuals as expected. On this rundown are only the absolute most interesting photos taken all through the most recent 200 years, some of which might be lesser known than others. Top 10. The first photo of the Sphinx of Giza. The Great Sphinx of Giza was assembled over 4,500 years prior, in a real sense a huge number of years before photography was imagined in 1826. From that point forward, swarms of photographs of the Great Sphinx and the pyramids of Giza have been taken by individuals who came from all the sides of the world to see these glorious landmarks for themselves. As some portion of what is accepted to be the principal set of photos taken of the sculpture, Maxime Duchamp snapped a photograph of the Great Sphinx, with the pyramids obvious out of sight, in 1849. By then the chest region of the Sphinx had, truth be told, as of late been uncovered. Another photo taken in 1860 uncovered that further unearthing had revealed significantly a greater amount of the sculpture. Today, the whole Sphinx is obvious, including its tail that folds over the back and stretches to its correct back paw. Just the nose, accepted to have been a meter wide, is absent from the sculpture. Top 9. The Splendor of a Mausoleum. The dynamite Taj Mahal sepulchre was charged by the Mughal head Shah Jahan in 1632 to hold the burial place of his significant other, Mumtaz Mahal. After Jahan passed on, his remaining parts also were buried in a burial place inside the catacomb. This story took a turn for the frightful when a legend began getting out and about that said Shah Jahan cut off the hands and gouged out the eyes of all the experts and craftsmen who chipped away at the Taj Mahal to guarantee they couldn't imitate its excellence anyplace else in the world. The first ever photographs of the landmark were taken by Dr. John Murray somewhere in the range of 1858 and 1862. The main photo of the Taj Mahal portrays a side perspective on the structure with the waterway Yamuna streaming before it. Top 8. Boating on Yellowstone Lake. The Yellowstone National Park is home to Yellowstone Lake, the biggest waterway in the recreation center. Pre-notable occasions saw Native Americans populate the forested areas and valleys encompassing the lake, with the primary European voyager to discover the lake, John Colter, doing as such during the 19th century. A fishing span was included in 1902. Yet shut for fishing in 1973 after the quick decrease of relentless trout. In 1871, the primary recorded boat cruised out on the waters of Yellowstone Lake. The Annie was cruised to Stevenson Island on July 29, 1871 and was a little canvas boat estimating 12 feet in length. The boat contained travelers, James Stevenson and Henry W. Elliot. Top 7. Van Gogh photo controversy. Vincent van Gogh is as acclaimed for his delightful compositions as he is for removing his own ear. The Starry Night, the Yellow House and Cypresses are among his most famous fine arts. Van Gogh likewise made various self-representations, yet just had 2 photos taken of himself all through his lifetime. One of the photos was introduced at a display in 1957, during which Belgian specialist Marc Edo Trilbot guaranteed that it portrayed a 13-year-old Van Gogh. In 2014, nonetheless, a Dutch TV program utilized imaging innovation to age-transform the Van Gogh photograph and contrasted it with the other photograph of the craftsman, taken when he was 19. It was discovered that the photographs didn't coordinate. The Van Gogh Museum took up the issue and presumed that the 19-year-old was without a doubt Van Gogh, yet couldn't decisively demonstrate that the photograph of the 13-year-old was in fact the craftsman. Numerous specialists presently accept that rather than the photograph portraying a teenaged Van Gogh, it truth be told portrayed his sibling, Theo Van Gogh. Top 6. Argyll's Deocteville dinosaur. Dinosaur fossils have interested the total populace for quite a while. Books have been expounded on these monster animals and films created that show them in the entirety of their previous glory. In 1898, an exhuming in a land arrangement in Europe, Argyll's Deocteville, revealed a few bones having a place with a stegosaur. Novice geologist, scientist, and paleologist, Émile Saville, took a few photographs of the unearthing cycle, and it turned into the most seasoned enduring photos of a dinosaur removal in Europe. Saville had discovered a strong square of Kimmeridgian limestone on the seashore. The square contained fossilized bones and, after he told the Natural History Museum in Le Havre, it was affirmed that the bones had a place with the dinosaur. Saville passed on in 1902, and around then, the skeleton had not yet been distinguished similar to that of a stegosaur, with it actually being portrayed erroneously as an iguanodon in 1904. It was uniquely in 1911 that the Octeville bones were first accurately portrayed as having a place with the stegosaur. Top 5. The Smiling Hippo. A charming child hippopotamus was caught on an island in the White Nile and gave to England as a trade-off for deerhounds and greyhounds in 1850. Obage, named after the island he was found on, showed up in London to the cheers of many energized observers. His new home, the Zoological Gardens, saw the quantity of guests twofold overnight. Obage appeared as though he was grinning at whatever point he slept, and he was one of the main star creatures and the principal hippo to show up in Victorian Britain. Obage got away from the zoo at one point, and legend has it that an animal handler was roped in his snare to help bait the hippo back into his nook. A subsequent hippo was shipped off the zoo in 1854, named Adhella. Obage and Adhella created posterity 16 years after the fact. However, misfortune struck when their initial two calves kicked the bucket not long after birth. A third calf named Guy Fawkes was brought into the world in 1872 and endured. Top 4. Table Mountain Cableway. Table Mountain in Cape Town, SA has filled guests with stunningness and wonder for a very long time. In 1790, Lady Anne Barnard turned into the principal Capetonian lady to scale the culmination when it must be done by walking. In 1912, plans for a cableway up the mountain began to come to fruition. On 4 October 1929 the cableway was authoritatively opened. From that point forward, more than 20 million individuals have taken a streetcar to the top, including Arnold Schwarzenegger and Oprah Winfrey, just as Sir Edmund Hillary and George Low. The absolute first trolley that made the course up the mountain resembled a wooden box with windows, and taking a gander at it today, it doesn't rouse a lot of trust in its capacity to move a gathering of individuals up the huge Table Mountain. However, during its long history, the cableway has kept up a 100% well-being record without any mishaps happening since its origin. End. Top 3. Into the Jaws of Death. There are a large number of photos that have caught the ghastliness and misfortune of war. A portion of these photographs portray the grisly result of fights, while others show the mental impacts that the various wars have engraved on troopers and their families. Numerous photos have been made during move and reflect not just the horrible conditions the warriors needed to live in, however the alarming activities they had no real option except to undertake. On June 6, 1944, Robert F. Chief snapped a picture of American warriors landing from a LCVP at Omaha Beach during World War II. The photograph was named, "Cabs to Hell, and Back, Into the Jaws of Death," and the first inscription read, "American trespassers spring from the incline of a Coast Guard monitored landing freight boat to swim those last dangerous yards to the seashore of Normandy. Faux fire will chop some of them down. Their taxi will pull itself off the sands and run back to Coast Guard monitored transport for more passengers." This photo accumulated the standing of being one of the most renowned photographs of D-Day. Just about 10,000 troopers were killed during D-Day. They were covered in the Normandy American Cemetery, which is situated on a precipice sitting above Omaha Beach. In excess of 1,500 officers' bodies were rarely recuperated. End. Top 2. Balancing on top of the world. In the event that you have a dread of stat years, you probably won't appreciate taking a gander at this photograph. Acrobats Yarley Smith, Jewel Waddock, and Jimmy Kerrigan played out a brave daily schedule on top of an edge on the 86th floor of the Empire State Building on August 21, 1934. Nicknamed the Three Jacksons, the youngsters flaunted a complicated, difficult exercise which finished in them taking after a human figure. Top 1. Kangaroos in Egypt. This is genuinely a special photograph. Not exclusively are the pyramids of Giza obvious behind lines of fighters, one of the warriors is slouched before a kangaroo of all things. Kangaroos and different creatures were carried everywhere on the world during the First and Second World Wars by Australian soldiers who were pleased to serve Australia. This is the way the kangaroo in this photo made it right to Egypt. A few troopers even snuck koalas and possums. Numerous Egyptians were startled at seeing the marsupials in their nation and dreadful scared of them, until they were educated that kangaroos were innocuous except if incited.